George Christensen is the National Party whip and in recent months a thorn in the government's side. The Queenslander is usually seen standing next to ministers at press conferences. Today he took centre stage at his own press conference, arriving early, waiting several minutes for journalists to turn up before revealing his big news.
I'll no longer be crossing the floor if indeed what's been announced today is what's going to be legislated.
The MP responsible for dishing out discipline in his party had threatened a revolt against the government's superannuation package unveiled on budget night.
It sort of was seen as something that was anathema to particularly the Conservative side of politics, having retrospectivity come into play with taxation arrangements. That's something we criticised Labor governments in the past for.
Now he's singing a different tune.
I think the congratulations really goes to Scott Morrison and Kelly O'Dwyer, who have landed on what I think is a perfect solution here.
Morning. The government's economic team announced this morning the super package, once dubbed ironclad by Malcolm Turnbull, was being changed with an eye to securing backbench support.
The reason we've made this change is because it makes it even fairer. What this has demonstrated is a government that can deal with tough issues in the 45th Parliament.
The most controversial part of the package, a $500,000 lifetime cap on after-tax contributions, backdated to 2007, has been scrapped. Backbenchers, the Liberal base and Labor flogged the government for that measure, claiming it was retrospective, something ministers denied. Instead, it's been replaced with an annual $100,000 cap, applying from next year. To pay for it, the government's postponing other complex elements of the superannuation package. The super industry is happy, saying the policy should now pass Parliament.
Well, Labor has no excuse whatsoever not to immediately, I would say, subject to their normal processes, support this. I mean, it removes every impediment that Labor mentioned.
Scott Morrison has spent 4 months trying to convince his own party room that his retrospective tax measure was a good one, and today he announced his own defeat.
We've made a modification. I mean, governments should listen to the Australian people, and when we do, I think that's a good thing. And when it can deliver a better outcome, that is to the benefit of absolutely everybody, and that is what has happened in this instance.
It was pretty humiliating back down from the government today. They said that their superannuation policy was ironclad, but what has really turned out is that Malcolm Turnbull's in the iron grip of his right-wing colleagues who rewrote the policy. They shredded the policy that Malcolm Turnbull took to the election.
George Christensen holds conservative views and is acutely aware the coalition backbench wields more power, with the government holding only a one-seat majority in the House of Reps.
The numbers just dictate that you have more influence. Every single one of us has more influence, given that the numbers are so tight.
How often will you threaten to cross the floor on policy changes to persuade the coalition leadership to change policy and to change its views?
Well, it's not a recurring habit, put it that way. I think that whenever we get that separation between the parliamentary party and the party's values, and also the concerns in the electorate, I suppose that's the sort of the climate that would need to be created for me to say, well, I may consider crossing the floor.
In question time, Labor taunted the Prime Minister for bowing to George Christensen.
The honourable member says, I listen to George. He may as well say, I listen to him. I may as well say, we listen to everybody because we consult. We listen, we consult, and then we make decisions based on the public interest.
I don't think Malcolm is as far removed from the Conservative side as people think he is. I think that he's got great propensity to listen and to act, and we've seen that regarding things like safe schools, the plebiscite, or we've seen that with the superannuation thing. I don't think Malcolm actually is the bogeyman to the Conservative side within the coalition as is painted out to be by commentators mainly.
In future, when the government negotiates to get policy through Parliament, who comes first, Labor, the crossbench or the backbench?
We will discuss our policies with absolutely everyone, as the Australian people would expect. That's what a good government, a good and prudent government, actually does.
Well, some would say we're actually running the show from opposition. When you look at the savings that survived in the Omnibus Savings Bill, we made that package a bigger savings package. We made it fairer. And similarly with superannuation, we've been taking the initiative on super. That's how we see our role. We've been, unlike oppositions in recent times, we really have tried to set the agenda and take the initiative.
Labor says today's changes are a massive capitulation. Malcolm Turnbull recently nominated the original super package as one of his greatest achievements as Prime Minister. It is a backdown. The government had no choice. The policy had no chance of passing Parliament. But it is also a win, as it means Malcolm Turnbull ends his anniversary week with 3 victories on super, budget repair and an endorsement from a fierce Abbott loyalist.
Malcolm is the leader, and I don't want to see him toppled at any point in time at all. It would be disastrous. In fact, I've said doing that would be writing our suicide note. So no matter how bad it gets, Malcolm is the leader.
It's important to know, and important for Australians to know, that as we break for the next few weeks, we should reflect on this, that with a little less grandstanding, a little less name-calling and a little bit more constructive negotiation, we can achieve great things for Australians and their future in this 45th Parliament.